OMG. OMG! Okay, I'm waiting till more people get in the chat so I can be a bitch because oh my god. That's what I thought. Hello, besties. Boy, is today a good day? Is today a good day to hate Hillary Clinton? Let me tell you that. Since the beginning! Since I was literally 13, I've been anti-Hillary Clinton. Fact. And today, it is worth it. It is so worth it. The Wall Street Journal has published, finally, finally, in lieu of the Durham investigation, we have found out, like, with solid evidentiary proof, Hillary Clinton's campaign manager confirmed that Hillary Clinton, here, let me just read this out to you guys, because this is literally, alright. Prosecutors presented evidence this week. This is from Hillary Clinton Did It, the article in the Wall Street Journal published, is today the 20th? May 20th. Prosecutors presented evidence this week that Mr. Sussman worked with cyber researchers and opposition research firm Fusion GPS to produce the claims on behalf of the Clinton campaign and feed them to the FBI, the claims of Russian collusion. In September of 2016, Mr. Sussman took claims of a secret Trump connection to Russia's Alpha Bank to the FBI and said he wasn't acting on behalf of any client. Prosecutors say he was working for the Hillary campaign. Prosecutors asked Mr. Mook about his role in funneling the Alpha Bank claims to the press. Mr. Mook admitted the campaign lacked expertise to vet the data, yet the decision was made by Mr. Mook, policy advisor Jake Sullivan, now President Biden's national security advisor, communications director Jennifer Palmieri, and campaign chairman John Podesta to give the Alpha Bank claims to a reporter. Mr. Mook and Mrs. Clinton say was asked about the plan and approved it. A story on the Trump Alpha Bank allegations then appeared in Slate, a left-leaning online publication. On October 31st of 2016, Mr. Sullivan issued a statement mentioning the Slate story, writing, "This could be the most direct link yet between Donald Trump and Moscow." Mrs. Clinton tweeted Mr. Sullivan's statement with the comment, "Computer scientists have apparently uncovered a covert server linking the Trump organization to a Russia-based bank." Apparently is doing a lot of work in that sentence. In short, the Clinton campaign created the Trump Alpha allegation, fed it to a credulous press that failed to confirm the allegations but ran with them anyways, then promoted the story as if it was legitimate news. The campaign also delivered the claims to the FBI, giving journalists another excuse to portray the accusations as serious and perhaps true. You, dude. Fuck you. Okay. It was obvious from the start. Of course it was. But it would sound like a crackpot if you were like, no, I remember you sounded like a complete crackpot if you were like, oh yeah, by the way, like, that's, like, not true. And now, ooh, I want to see every bitch who had the I'm with her post. Delete it. So, today, I was just talking about how we just got confirmation that Hillary Clinton's campaign, approved by Hillary Clinton herself, made up the Russia collusion story during the 2016 campaign, wasted 3 years of the FBI's time, on an investigation, embarrassed our press, so on and so forth. Literally, all like created a huge divide in the country because half the country was like, that's not true, and the other half was like, of course it's true. So yeah, really shitty. And today we're going to look into what is happening at the World Health Assembly. Basically, they want to pass a treaty that in a state of emergency such as a pandemic, you supersede your, or the WHO supersedes countries' national sovereignty to pass like legislation in like health legislation. So let's look up what's going on right now. Okay. Alright, it's published by Routers. This is 2 days ago. We want ASAP. Alright, let's look at this article from France 24. Slay. Accept. Okay. Okay, just so basically a lot of Cool. Okay. So the WHO is raising their membership fee to 50%. Yikes. Yeah. Okay. So talking about the treaty, they're like, it's too slow. We need a treaty now. Alright. Lot is talk about leprosy. So that's cool. Hey besties. I feel that you're very down to earth. You know, it's a good thing. I don't really know what being down to earth means in my case. Like, I'm not famous. Hi, Jeff. I feel like you can only be down to... Like, I feel like that can only apply to you if you, like, are, like, really famous already. You know what I mean? Also, thank you for the follows, you guys. Sorry that I was, like, reading this article. But, boy, ooh, it is a good day to hate this country's politics. Like, let's... Hi, Carrie. We're talking about the World Health Assembly that's happening right now. And mainly there's a big move on social media that's called #StopTheTreaty. I don't want this stuff. I want... Okay, this is not interesting. Okay. So, for those of you who are unaware, there is the 70... Thank you, Jeff! There is the 75th Annual World Health Assembly that's happening right now. And there is... Here. Let me Let me pull it up so that I don't fuck it up. I don't want it. Okay, let's look at Forbes. Okay, so opinion piece. This is a very poorly written article, I'm gonna be honest here. So there, like, the two sides of it are that, like, we need a, like, world, like, universally ratified treaty to, in the case of another pandemic, have better global coordination. This is a mad... This is actually like a terribly written article. We're gonna find another one because I don't like that. And I don't like any of these. Well, let's look at the World Health Organization actual news. Okay. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know if I want to become part of a global community. What do you guys think? Even reading the rhetoric in the article is enough to make you puke. Literally, it's so bad. I was gonna try to find an article to explain this, but like it's becoming clear to me that I'm either gonna get some like random unvetted libertarian like news site or Forbes's article, which is like written pretty poorly. But so basically there's this thank you for 8 months, Ven. Hey. So there's this like treaty that they're trying to propose at the World Health Assembly, which is happening right now. And okay, so proponents of this treaty are like, we were really unprepared for the pandemic and we didn't respond as a global community, and it's better for us if we can react quickly. That being said, I am always a little wary of that kind of rhetoric, and then because the opposition to this treaty is very much that this will be used against U.S. sovereignty. So I don't know how I feel about that, seeing as I tend to be I'm pretty interested in U.S. sovereignty. I think that's pretty cool. I'm a big fan of that. huge fan, actually. Big fan of that. So, yeah. I don't see this being necessarily a good thing for us. Because, like, you can talk, like, buzzwords like global cooperation tend to connect me to the World Economic Forum agendas, and I'm like, ooh, yikes. The fuck is monkeypox? Why don't we figure out what that is? What is monkeypox? Have you guys heard about this? How much money do they want from us for all of this? So the who? These are so gross. These are so gross. Oh my god. Just kidding. I actually can't look at this because. Oh my god, the pictures are terrible. If I send you 1,000 right now, will you show your feet? Like, yeah, I guess, but I just don't see you having $1,000. So. Exactly, Wonder. Do I love your parents? Do I love my parents? I do. My dad do in fact be dead though. So that, like, not that it complicates it, I don't love him any less, but people are way too different today to have one world government, but I'm sure in the future with better education, economic situation in the third world, and earned description. I don't want the U.S. unite under one government. What? That's a horrifying idea. Like, or not the U.S. I don't want the world unified under one government. No. Like, I have no interest in that. We already are in a country of, like, over 300 million people. Your vote is already, like, lessened in its, like, you know, like, is pineapple on pizza allowed? Obviously. But I feel as, like, that to me is a great way to, like, to really subject the citizens of that government to a lot of foul treatment, because all of a sudden, to get majority, you need, like, you know, not just 100 million people, but now you need, like, billions of people. How that's horrifying. A government doesn't care about its people, let alone a massive government of the world. Exactly. Like, I think that we already, like, already people slipped through the cracks, right? Like, politics is the art of deciding who to hurt and when, right? And so already we see policies that, like, might be good for the majority, but, like, harm people in the minority, in, like, minority groups, right? And in a world government, your minority groups can be comprised of 1 billion people and would still be considered a minority group who you can subject to, like, harm. I don't think that a world government would ever be, like, well fleshed out enough to, like, concern itself with the needs of its citizens adequately. Yeah, the majority demo would be exactly the same. If everyone in the world basically had the same values, culture, etc., it's by far superior strategy to stability. I don't want everybody in the world to have the same values, culture, etc. Like, what? Imagine if we lost the uniqueness of humanity. Like, imagine if you lost the rich culture that spreads itself so differently and manifests so uniquely in, like, in any number of nations. Like, that would be so heartbreaking to lose out on these traditions that have, like, endured for thousands of years. You would really want that? Like, okay, I'm, first of all, not really interested in taking shit from somebody whose user is hung like a horse IRL. But that being said, like, I am saying things that are just truisms. Like, it's special. It's special, and culture is important to, like, your personal identity. Like, I don't know, even for me, like, I have, like, really loose ties to my Macedonian relatives and, like, culture and whatnot. But there's something, like, very special and, um, looking for. There's something very grounding about having, like, culture, you know, that I don't think is something that we should lose. Does Jordan still stream? No, not necessarily. I don't think so. I don't want, like, it doesn't matter if only the individual remains unique. Like, we're gonna, we're gonna lose, like, okay, like, Japanese culture is wildly different from Korean culture and is like, all of these, like, nations that are, like, right by each other are all special, like, all of this special and unique, like, heritage that shouldn't be washed away just for the, like, in the name of, like, prosperity or cooperation. I'd rather have worse cooperation and preserve these things that make people, that give people purpose in life, you know? Is culture really tied to government, though? I don't think that culture is tied to government necessarily, but I think that government has the ability to, like, destroy culture. Like, so I think that, like, one, like, they can coexist, but it can also be overwhelming. Um, Obsessed with the comment that was like, your tits are so distracting. Do you talk to women IRL? um, I'm not jumping to that conclusion. I was responding to a comment saying that it would be better if everybody had the same culture. Destruction of African American culture post-slavery was a structured process by the U.S. government. Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, I mean, think about, like, the burning of Black Wall Street. Think about Seneca Village. Like, all of these instances where we see that, like, when your government doesn't want a group to have culture, to have familiarity, to have, like, a community and a network that might be able to lift them up out of poverty, there are steps you can take to destroy it. Even think about the building of, it's the highway. There's this building of a highway that goes through, like, Brooklyn that was specifically built to destroy, like, to run through these, like, predominantly Black neighborhoods. And it was, like, created with, like, with the intention, with the stated intention of, like, destroying these predominantly Black neighborhoods. Because, like, the mayor at the time did not want Black people, like, living around him, you know? We have so much evidence that, like, you know, your government, like, can be benevolent, but that benevolence is not necessarily guaranteed. Will you live with homeless in your house? Meaning what? I'm not arguing that homogenous government is going to create a homogenous culture. I am saying that you have to be, like, you cannot be willfully ignorant. You cannot be blissfully ignorant in the sense of, like, this government will always have our best intentions at heart. That's not necessarily true. Like, that is a hope and that is a whim, but, like, similar to, like, even, like, similar to, like, okay, I always am referencing On Liberty, but John Stuart Mill writes this phenomenal piece about basically how, like, in the wake, here, let me pull it up, in the wake of, the tyranny of the monarchy, we're subjected to the tyranny of the majority, and let me just pull it up. Okay. Like other tyrannies, the tyranny of the majority was at first and is still vulgarly held in dread, chiefly as operating through the acts of public authorities. But reflecting persons perceive that when society is itself the tyrant, society collectively, over the separate individuals who compose it, its means of tyrannizing are not restricted to acts which it may do by the hands of its political functionaries, so that society can and does execute its own mandates, and if it issues wrong mandates instead of right, or any mandates at all in things which ought not to meddle, it practices a social tyranny more formidable than any kinds of political oppression, since, not though usually upheld by such extreme penalties, it leaves fewer means of escapes, penetrating much more deeply into the details of life, and enslaving the soul itself. Protection, therefore, against the tyranny of the magistrate is not enough. There needs to be protection also against the tyranny of the prevailing opinion and feeling, against the tendency of society to impose, by other means than civil penalties, its own ideas and practices as rules of conduct on those who dissent from them, to fetter the development, and, if possible, prevent the formation of any individuality not harmony with its ways, and compel all characters to fashion themselves upon a model of its own. And I think this is a great passage to exemplify, like, when you bring a bunch of different people under, like, one government, it's very possible and probable that, like, there is a, like, destruction of culture due to these issues between two groups. Like, we think about the Armenian genocide, right? There are all these very modern examples of, without independence, like, there can be, like, very large and dangerous and violent clashes between culture, simply because, like, they're all essentially living under the same roof, right? And now imagine if you like magnify that across the whole world. That's horrifying. Like, we've seen what's happening in China to the Uyghur Muslims, and they are a cultural minority. Like, that you don't want to exacerbate these issues. What a bizarrely patronizing tone, like, people seem to take when women talk about politics on the internet. It's so weird. Like, I'm not even stating my own opinions. Like, I'm just like, okay, so historically speaking, this, and this happened. If this were to happen, it wouldn't be unfounded to say that, like, we could see the reemergence of those actions again. That's a very, like, that's not necessarily a claim. That's, like, inferring based on past references. So bizarre. Like, there's just, like, a lot of, like, you're honestly fairly on point, but our governments are functioning to benefit corporate interests versus human interests. Of course they are. Like, I've never disagreed with that. Government's job is to create and maintain an environment for community and cooperation, not drive division and fragmentation. Ideally, yeah, but if you were trying to, like, hello, Cortez. If you were trying to keep your population unaware, you would absolutely want to divide and conquer. You would absolutely want people to have such vitriol towards their towards their neighbors, that they're unable to, like, come together, you know? I'm not saying that you're attacking me because I'm a woman. I'm saying that I think you're, like, angry on Twitch, man.
Nice.
And that's, like, really not my business. Thanks for the bits, dude. Like, it's just a fact that when we've seen strong strong vitriol between cultures that are united under one nation, there is almost always abuse of the minority culture. Even in fucking, like, even the fucking UK, like, the fact that, like, the fact that like a lot of Pakistani immigrants like live in like basically straight up ghettos, go to almost entirely Pakistani schools, and like like when we finally saw in 2015, like there's this phenomenal podcast on it called the Trojan Horse Affair. When we finally saw in 2015 that like there was this guy who, I think he was retired, and he was like, okay, fuck it, like I'm tired of seeing I'm tired of not seeing like all of the kids in my neighborhood succeed. I'm sick of it. I'm done with it, you know? And so he became like principal of a school, I think, and instated a bunch of measures and got up to like I think like a 95% graduation rate as opposed to a 20% graduation rate out of high school. And then like there was this letter that was falsified to basically paint him as a terrorist, and all of his work was like obliterated. And that's 2015. And like this letter is traced back to like, you know, anti-Pakistani opposition groups. It's just so it's like a truism that when you have like it's just a truism that like people don't get along well. Like, and then if you magnify that to the world stage, imagine the kind of atrocities you would have. Like, that's just not something that I'm interested in ushering in. Though there are some cultures where that's not the case, for example, Catalan in Spain. No, that's absolutely true, but I think like you can't, when you're talking about like something as like, thank you for the subscription. When you're talking about like, what is the word that I'm looking for? When you're talking about like upending the way that our entire world currently functions, you should go off of like okay, maybe like there are examples, like the United States is a okay example of like people of many, many different cultures getting along, right? At the same time, we have many, many examples of that not being the case. And even in the United States, we have like so much historical precedent of our government like willingly oppressing black people, like willingly keeping black people poor, keeping like trying their best to keep immigrants poor, or I should say non-white immigrants poor. Like, I just feel like there's no, in my very humble opinion, there's not enough precedent to sway me to believe that like this wouldn't be a horrible catastrophe, because we've seen horrific acts, just absolutely like horrific acts committed that would likely happen again, and probably with more vitriol, like should acts of globalization happen. I can't wait till we get a female president. Please name one historical precedent where the U.S. government tried their best to keep non-white immigrants poor. Okay, great. So when we talk, like, a lot of immigration policy, like for example, just the fact that there's like a 10-year period for a green card, and like the way that it's not in California, but like federally, the way that you file taxes is like, it's very difficult for you to start your own business. It's very difficult for you to get like to build up capital to generate generational wealth. But like that's, you know, the keeping non-white immigrants poor is mainly like a Ellis Island era thing. But if we want to talk about like ways that our government has like directly oppressed the black population, like directly what's the word I'm looking for? Disincentivized, like wealth in African American communities. Think about Seneca Village, right? Like Central Park like, the Seneca Village was a prospering black community that, of, like, free blacks that was, like, you know, this is the beginning of building, like, not that there wasn't already culture, but it's the beginning of building, like, a foundational, like, culture, and it's demolished to build Central Park. Think about the burning of Black Wall Street, like, the very first, like, one of the first, like, places where, like, black people were, like, economically prominent, and it's obliterated. Like, these are not unfounded examples. You can look up all of these. I promise you it's real. Like, is it evil to steal food if your family was starving? Of course not. Of course not. But I also don't have the best opinions on what's evil and what's not. People should value similar tolerant cultures and not just look at, I don't know what that word is. I don't think that makes you a criminal. It depends on the town's laws. An outlaw like a cowboy. Oh, I like that. That's fun. I think that's fun. Or the bombing of literally black neighborhoods in Philly. There is like, or literally the like, or literally distributing crack during the Reagan administration. What? What? Like that. I'm laughing because I'm like uncomfortable with that knowledge. Like it's not funny, but I'm laughing like because I am like, what the actual fuck? Like, you know? I transitioned away from explaining how governments try their best to keep non-white immigrants poor. But I mean, it's evident, right? Like, the immigration process is much easier if you are coming from a nation that you're not necessarily fleeing from, which is a lot of like predominantly white nations, than it is if like you are attempting to seek asylum from a non-white nation. And that's unfortunate. Thank you, Neo. I appreciate that. Like, you can't be racist in 2022 with cameras and social media. I try not to be racist even without cameras and social media. But thanks. I feel like it's not difficult to like equal opportunity within the country, but also with other countries, right? Okay. I don't know what that's referencing, but anyways, like, it's just insane. It's just straight insane. Like, I couldn't believe my eyes this morning when I'm talking about something different, by the way. I couldn't believe my eyes this morning when, like, I woke up and saw that the Wall Street Journal was like, oh yeah, by the way, Hillary approved, like, you know, disseminating false information. And we just know that? Like, we just straight up know that? That can't be legal! Why would I ban you? Like, the Twitch algorithm is benefited by having more people chatting at one time. That's not helpful to me. I'd rather have, like, I think you're treating me kind of rudely a little bit, but, like, I don't mind that. I'd rather, like, bump up my algorithm with your chats. So, have you seen the Hillary email leaks? Yeah, of course I have. Like, you guys, I spent, like, all of high school I had debate tournaments literally every week, and we would sit and, like, read and read and read and read and read and read. Like, everything that was published, every article that came, that like, was available to us, we were reading it. Like, just because, like, maybe you'll find a unique, maybe you'll find a fun, unique point in, like, the news. Hello to Brazil! Okay, so, oh, it's dark. It's dark. Do you think debate is useful or just performance? So I'll be honest, I think that, like, this is my personal opinion, and, like, not everybody feels this way about speech and debate, but it was, by and large, like, the best thing I ever could have done. My rhetorical skills, my argumentative analysis was, like, far increased and improved by doing speech and debate. I also loved it. I loved it so much. Like, I would, like, at debate, like, for debate tournaments, you dress up in a suit. And, like, I felt like, because I had done dance for a while, and I loved dance. I loved dancing. I did not necessarily enjoy, like, actually doing, like, competitive dance. But, like, it was so, like, nothing can compare to, like, okay, so I would get up at, like, 4:30 a.m., 5:30 a.m. on a Saturday or a Friday, depending on how long the tournament was, like, drive, like, 2 hours, right, in my suit, so, like, 4:30, like, do my suit and hair and makeup, get in the car, it's, like, it's so early that nobody's on the road, so you would, like, floor it, and all the way there, I'm listening to a podcast, like, to just, like, keep my brain active, right, and I would get out of the car, and I would start blasting. For a while, I would blast, The Man by The Killers in my headphones, and I would, like, I would, like, pace in my heels, to, like, try to get me, like, up and at 'em. I was like, whew, can do it. And, like, nothing beats that feeling when, like, you're sitting in, at the awards ceremony, and for the first, like, one event I did was, like, Congress, so a lot of, so, like, there were, like, usually, like, 16 people in the final round, right, so you'd go from, like, you usually have, like, 3 rounds, then, like, 2 separate semifinals, and then a final, and so they would count off everybody in the final with a 1 clap roll until you got to the top 3, I'm so sorry about the lag, I'm sorry, how can I fix it? I am watching chat. Is it, like, let me ask my mom really quickly how to fix this.